Hey, white folk, class is in session. White folk, let's be honest. Have you ever said the words to some black person, go back to Africa? If you don't like it here, go back to Africa. I'm going to explain to you why that is truly an ignorant statement and why it does not offend us. It really makes you look dumb. And I'm going to tell you the history why. Okay, first of all, telling a black person to go back to Africa is rooted in ignorance. It's rooted in racism, and it's a misunderstanding of history. First of all, most black Americans, because of the transatlantic slave trade, when you tell us to go back to Africa, we don't know where we're going because many of us, not all blacks who are in America or in the diaspora, are descendants of slaves. However, the majority of us that are, when you tell us to go back to Africa, where would we go? What language would we speak? It's not the same as if someone is from Guatemala and you know they're from Guatemala and you say, hey, why don't you go back to Guatemala? Well, if they had to go back, they would know their language. They would know where. Where? Where would we go? There are what, over 54 countries in Africa? Over 1,500 languages spoken in the continent of Africa? Where would I go, y'all? I don't know. I don't know if I'd go to somewhere in West Africa. Where? What language would I speak? Whose door would I knock on and say, Mama, I'm home? It's ignorant. Also, Black Americans are much of a part of the U.S. as any other group. Our ancestors built much of this country's infrastructure, economy, and culture under enslavement. Telling me and other blacks to go back to Africa denies our rightful place in the U.S. and erases our historical contributions. How do you tell someone who built your home, who built your land, white folk, now leave? Your descendants built it. You don't have a right to it anymore. Get the hell out. You know how ignorant and crazy that sounds? It also has racist undertones. This phrase, y'all excuse me, I have a cold, often reflects the belief that black people do not belong in America or that we are outsiders, despite the fact that our presence in the U.S. predates many white immigrants. How about that? It perpetuates the idea of racial superiority, implying that black people should leave while white people, regardless of your ancestry, have a right to claim to the land. What is it about you white folk and land? You're obsessed with it. You've always been. From Europe to everywhere, you were obsessed with land and conquering land and taking land from people and denying those who really rightfully belong to the rights, privileges of it. The ignorance of African history and diversity. Africa is not a monolith. As I mentioned before, it is a continent with 54 countries and over 1,500 languages. Most Black Americans have no direct connection to specific African countries due to the brutal, I repeat, brutal erasure of their and our ancestral histories during slavery. Telling someone to go back to Africa ignores the complexity of African identity and oversimplifies the diverse origins of Black people. You think just because my skin is the same color or close to someone in the continent of Africa, that you could just drop me off at Africa's sweet door and I would just come, they would just know, I would know what to do and how to function. I don't know not one African dialect. Now, I don't fault you for that. Not me, not my generation, because now we have the knowledge, skills, and ability. We can research where we come from. We can learn different languages and all of that. It just takes a lot of money and time. But the original enslaved Africans, remember you told them they couldn't speak their languages because you didn't want them to form and have a bond together. So if the enslaved Africans spoke their African tongue, then you would beat the hell out of them. You didn't want them rallying and coming together. And then you forbid them to use their own name, so you rename them. And that is where I take umbrage. It pisses me off to the highest level of festivity when white folk, you misname us. You all know damn well her name was Kamala Harris. But to disrespect her, you called her Kamala. You all have been doing that since the beginning of time. Renaming something. That's the ultimate sign of disrespect. My name is Angela, not Angie. All right. The trauma of slavery. When you tell us to go back to Africa, the transatlantic slave trade forcibly disconnected black people from their roots, leaving many descendants with no knowledge of their precise origins. This phrase degrades the deep pain and generational trauma associated with our loss. Do you know how, when my Nigerian friends, I hear them speaking either Yoruba or their language, or my Zimbabwean friends speaking Shona, I'm like, God damn, that's a beautiful thing. It's entrenched in them. It's not in me. It's just not. Also, it's when you tell a black person to go back to Africa, it's exclusionary nationalism. Let me explain what that means. This phrase aligns with xenophobic ideologies that seek to exclude people who are perceived as different. It's a way to marginalize black people and suggest that we are not true Americans, even though we have been integral in this nation's history and culture. The funny thing is, white folk, many of you hate us, but you want to be us. You want our lips, you want our complexion, you want our figures, you want our men, you want our swag, you want our voices, you want all that encompasses. However, that is not, I'm doing a live, close my door, please. So even though we had an integral part to play in this nation, you don't want to identify, you don't want to acknowledge it. Also, it's historical hypocrisy, y'all. Many white Americans are themselves descendants of immigrants from Europe and other parts of the world. Telling black Americans to go back to Africa ignores the fact that our own ancestors came to America often voluntarily in pursuit of opportunity. It also ignores the fact that your ancestors came to America voluntarily. I'm sorry, not us, you all, voluntarily in pursuit of opportunity. So should I tell the Irish American to go back? That's crazy. It's also it erases the contributions of blacks in America. But however, I'm gonna tell you, it does not hurt me when I hear a white person tell me to go back to Africa. Years ago, when I used to hear ignorant whites say that, I would get angry. But now it's like, they're so freaking stupid. Sure, if you got a plane ticket and you can do all the research and tell me where my people come from, do all of that research for me and pay for it, I would gladly go. I want to feel a sense of home, because no black American truly feels at home here in America. We have made do because we are survivors. But it is nothing like being encompassed around a sea of your descendants in Africa. So, white folk, it's just a lesson. When you tell us to go back to Africa, it's making you sound ignorant because you don't understand that we don't know where we're going to go. Thanks to you. Hey, I'm not teaching this to make you mad, white folk. I'm teaching it to open your eyes so you know the truth, because they don't want you to know this in school. And that is why they're fighting so hard to erase history. If my teachings bless you, continue to like, share, subscribe, and follow me. And if it really blesses you, buy a sister a cup of coffee right here where it says, buy me coffee. All right? Talk to y'all soon. Sisters, keep doing what you do. Drink your water, mind your black business. And brothers, keep on keeping on. Bye.